Attention visionaries and pioneers, the future of wealth is here, and it's spelled B-I-T-C-O-I-N, Bitcoin. Introducing the exclusive Loans for Bitcoin program at the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where your good credit unlocks 0% interest loans for up to 2 years, or term loans up to $250,000 spread over 7 to 12 years. Why wait? Use this capital to acquire the world's fastest appreciating asset, Bitcoin. With prices hovering around 94,000 and projections aiming much higher by the year's end, the time to act is now. Leverage isn't just for Wall Street anymore. Arbitrage the low cost of your loan against Bitcoin's explosive growth. It's smart finance for the modern investor. And privacy matters. Our no KYC Bitcoin purchase program ensures you buy and self-custody your assets in your own wallet. Your keys, your Bitcoin, your future. And as the world shifts to digital currencies, be ahead of the curve. Front-run corporations, governments, in this greatest financial revolution of our times. I'm Jay Bose, CEO of Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club. Call or text us today at 941-413-6920 and get started on that loan application. Secure your legacy. You will thank yourself tomorrow. A blessed good morning to each and every one of you, and welcome to the Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. I'm Dr. J, and I have my brother Ben with me today in the studios, and we're delighted to have him. We're going to talk about a lot of things. This is a moment of global uncertainty. The world is teetering on the edge of potential fiat monetary collapse. There's geopolitical escalation. Bombs are falling in Tel Aviv and Tehran. And at the same time, we are seeing a digital renaissance, a renaissance that President Trump is driving from the political side. The Michael Saylors and the corporations and Bitcoin Ben crypto clubs are driving from the corporate and the grassroots levels, and a revolution that is starting to go beyond that 3% of the people who hold Bitcoin in their wallets to what will become eventually a lot higher percentages than that. And that changes everything, because in this chaos that we are seeing around us right now, you see, Bitcoin doesn't fear chaos. It was born from chaos. After the 2008 collapse, Bitcoin rose. And so as we are going through these fundamental shifts, the three forces at play are intermingling to create this new environment. And we're going to tell you today how you need to read the tea leaves, how you need to play this game. And we're in it for the long run. And we're going to make some predictions. Ben and I are going to make some predictions towards the end of the show that we feel is where the future is going. And that you're going to be able to take advantage of it. So, Ben, you know, these three big factors that are happening today, there's a monetary collapse going on of the old money of the traditional world. There is war and geopolitical escalation all around. Chaos is building up, which often feeds Bitcoin. And at the same time, the true digital renaissance, the strength and power of this blockchain, of the Bitcoin network, of the exahashes is continuing to grow. Adoption is continuing to grow. So something beautiful is emerging. What is your take on how these three forces will shape the world as we know it?
Well, I'm going to lean in on this one because this is right in my wheelhouse. Because, excuse me, hang on one second. First off, coffee, Red Bull, and coffee. Do you also have coffee?
Zoltan? No, he's drinking water.
He's an odd man out. Okay, guys, let's actually dive right in on what we're actually talking about here. is there's always chaos in the world. You cannot throw a rock at the earth and not hit someplace that's probably chaotic. And because chaos is really just a point of view. If you look at the Revolutionary War here in America, it was absolutely chaotic. Was it needed? Absolutely. Chaos is not good or actually bad. It's how you perceive what the chaos leads to. Because you can have a hectic day that is extremely productive, or you can have a hectic day where you don't get jack shit done. And what's important is not looking at the chaos, it's looking at the direction in which the chaos will logically lead. And what we see all over the planet is we see that there is a war on for who controls what. And what they're really all wanting to control is the money. Because if you own oil, you make money. If you if you run an area of a river that shipping flows through, you make money. It's everything revolves around currency and actually making profit. War for the American industrial war machine is profitable. Is it right? That's up to you.
Point of view.
Right. And so everything revolves around money and real money. We've only had the illusion of real money. Humans have used everything from silver and gold and shells and coins and beads and all of that as an exchange or a record of value. And where we're at right now is we are officially shifting from an analog economy into a digitally based economy.
Brilliant. Exactly right. That is exactly what is happening. You know, I wanted to read this one tweet from President Trump this morning, and it really captures. It says the Senate just passed an incredible bill that is going to make America the undisputed leader in digital assets. What you're talking about, right? Nobody will do it better. It is pure genius because it's called the Genius Act,
Yep.
right? Digital assets are the future, and our nation is going to own it. We are talking about massive investments and big innovation. The House will hopefully move lightning fast, and he puts lightning in like caps,
quotations.
right? So clearly indicating to us where
Lightning
the
network.
transaction layer is going to be, and pass a clean Genius Act, get it to my desk ASAP, no delays, no add-ons. This is American brilliance at its best, and we are going to show the world how to win with digital assets like never before. So your point that we are literally shifting from an analog economy to a digital economy. Folks, this shift, you need to understand two things, is inevitable. The train is coming down that track, and there's absolutely nothing you or anyone else on this planet can do to stop that. All right? Once you understand that at an intrinsic level, that this is inevitable, and that sound of inevitability is growing louder by the second. Number two, it is an incredible opportunity, a once in a century opportunity,
Once in humanity.
once in a humanity opportunity to create that shift of wealth to the middle class, to the poorer class. And this is what President has been working towards. Understand history. It was after the First World War that the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, after they sank the Titanic, we won't get into that. But wealth, the generational wealth is created right when the greatest of turmoil happens. So, as Ben was saying, chaos is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It is the way the world works. The world is chaotic. How do we feed from that in a positive way? And what great fortunes, what great entrepreneurship, what great technologies will come out of this chaotic world that we are in right now? And so, Ben, talk a little more about how these digital assets will start to shape pretty much everything that we do, every aspect of our lives, every aspect of government, business.
Easy. These assets are the equivalent of the shift between 1880 and 1925, where we shifted from a whale oil economy.
Petrodollars.
No.
Oh, the whale oil economy.
I'm going
way back.
I'm going to lay out
the
this
whale
whole
blubber.
chain.
I remember
right.
what you. Okay, all right, all right.
Prior to regular, what they call fossil fuel, which there ain't no fossil. That's all bullshit. It's
He's right. He's right.
It's prior to oil from the ground. We used whale oil, and it was a huge shift once we learned how to refine oil out of the ground into other petro use cases. That's where we're at right now. And that's why Trump actually says the Bitcoin is the new oil. And he says that very generally. And a lot of people look at it as, oh, okay, new oil lubrication for the economy or something like, oh, the profit margins on oil over generations. No, he's going way deeper than that. He goes, as we move forward, where we're at right now is we're about 1884, because that's when we really realized the future of oil was, holy cow, we can not only use this for fuel, we can also use this for lubrications, clothing, tires, rubber, for all of these other implications into other areas of the economy. And that was actually known at the time as the Great Oil the Great Oil Implementation. All right, Google that. It's good luck. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the Great Oil Implementation was when a group of elites realized, hey, oil is the next it. All right. Prior to that, it was gold. It was the Iron Age. We had actually based our global economy off of iron and metal and silver and gold, because those were the lowest level of production that we had. We produced everything out of metal, shields and swords, and all of our lowest level of production was in using iron or ore or whatever. Well, that's why we had coins, because coins were a valued metal that not only could you use as coins, you could actually take it.
Utility.
Exactly. So that's why we had an Iron Age and copper and all of that.
Gold.
Exactly,
Golden age.
gold. And well, once we hit oil, they knew in 1882 at the London School of Economics, one of the economics people wrote a paper. I can't remember exactly which guy it was, but he wrote a paper explaining how oil was the new gold. And we're just we are repeating history.
You know, I love this historical perspective that you bring to our viewers here, Ben. I love that. He starts with freaking whale oil and goes into the Iron Age. But let's really unpack that, because, here's what's going on, guys. You need to understand, whatever is the base production material ends up becoming the currency.
Bingo.
So when the base material for production was iron and steel, which was the most precious of them all, it was gold. So gold became a standard. Now, fast forward to the oil age, oil starts to become a larger and larger part of the economic engine, because oil is used for production, it's used for lubrication, it's used in cloth, it's used in shoes, it's used in bags. Every possible thing that you can think of, plastics particularly, because that's the plastic revolution. It's all based on oil, right? So what started happening is the proportion of the global economy that was dependent on oil versus what was dependent on metal started to change. And as that shift came, we had a new currency by the name of petrodollars. Because oil had to be traded between countries, petrodollars, which is basically saying US dollar, became that standard on which global oil would be traded. So now, why did US dollar become so strong? Because every single country had to hoard US dollars in order to trade oil with another country. If a country wanted to buy oil, the only currency, folks, they had was the US dollar. They couldn't buy it in any other currency, which is why it was called the petrodollar. Now, the reign of the petrodollar continues from that 1884 all the way up to about 1990, 92. Now something interesting starts to happen. The web hits. Netscape makes its browser in 93. I met Mark Andreessen back in Silicon Valley at that time. He had a lot more hair than he has now. So did I.
We all did.
So he makes Netscape, and then the digital age starts to happen. And what you're seeing is, it started with music, right? The entire LP and CD industry went away and all the music became digital. Now suddenly the percentage of the global GDP based on digital products starts to increase. Fast forward to the early 2000s, well over 30 to 40% of the world's GDP is now digital assets, okay? Because you're buying ebooks, you're buying music, you're buying videos, you're buying all of these products. Even when you buy that little microchip, which is in your phone or your computer, which costs $1,000, the new Apple M4 chip, the actual silicon, the actual aluminum legs on that chip costs less than 5 cents. And yet that chip costs $1,000 because of the intellectual asset, which is digital, the programming, which is sitting on the chip. Go back 100 years, the steam engine, if it cost $100,000, $90,000 of it was the actual steel that went into making that steam engine. Whereas now 98% of the value is digital in that asset. The physical aluminum legs and the silicon chip is no cost. It's sand, and it's the most abundant material. So the logical conclusion we can draw here, Ben, is that the currency, just like it became is going to become a digital currency. So that's not a big leap of faith. There's no question that as the digital economy grows, the way we trade in that digital economy is going to be digital, for heaven's sake. That's the only way to do it. But where we're going to draw the distinction even further is we believe it is going to be Bitcoin.
It will be. Let me elaborate
Yes,
a
please.
little bit on this. All right, you were absolutely right on everything you just said. And
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You trained me well, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. And what happened in 1971, whenever Nixon actually took us off of gold? Everyone yells and complains, oh my God, he took us off of gold. He took us off of gold. Because exactly what you said. The lowest level of production had shifted from a metal into petroleums. And humans we always base our currency on the lowest level commodity that our economies are built on, because then that actually gives you a floor of production. So it will never drop under the price of producing that commodity. So in oil, how much was it to actually pull it out of the ground? That's your floor. Everything else is value add on top of that. Now, the reason we're in such a fundamental shift right now is exactly what you said. I read a report out of MIT about 6 months ago, and it was the global GDP breakdown of commodities and usage. And right now, about 18% of everything produced involves lead or steel, some type of physical metal. Now, 37% of what we produce is actually in rubber or plastics, something based on oil. We just hit a point where 39%,
40%, yeah.
Right, is exchange of digital.
Correct.
And once we hit more digital, which is pure energy. When we say digital, you think energy. That's all it is. Energy moves at the speed of light. Now, I'm going to roll this out a little bit more. Humans are very predictable economically because everything revolves around transportation of either information or physical goods. So we've reached the point now, transportation-wise, where we can basically digitize everything that is a record of value or ownership or whatever. That's all moving digital. We don't even have paper anymore. Very rarely does anyone really print out paper anymore and read off of a paper. And the most valuable things humans have is our historical knowledge and our current knowledge of reality. That is more valuable than oil. It's more valuable than gold. It's more valuable than Bitcoin.
And hence Google's rise to
bingo. It's all information transfers or transferring information. Well, Google is Google because they basically owned exchanging digital
They catalog the world's information.
bingo. Now, Google is nothing compared to digitally recording
Unalterable.
unalterable monetary
Blockchain.
value. And it's decentralized.
Listen to that statement again, folks. You know the rise of Google and how big they became because they cataloged
They're
information.
nothing.
Digitizing monetary value in an incorruptible, immutable, unchangeable blockchain is bigger idea than Google and all of these
Than
companies combined.
anything. And what people are realizing is, and I'm going to say something and I'm going to have to explain it because it's going to sound crazy.
Okay.
All righty. Bitcoin is the new America. It is the new idea. It is the leaving the old system and creating a new system.
100%. So folks, in this world, there are only two things: atoms and bits. Okay? Everything falls into one of these two categories. Until this point that Ben is talking about, we lived in the world of atoms, whether it was an atom of metal that was the base currency, or it was an atom of petroleum, carbon with a bunch of H molecules around it. It was still an atom. We're at that point where the digital bit economy has become larger than the atom economy.
Yep.
And as the world starts moving towards bits, more value creation is happening in bits. Everything changes. The way you transport bit changes. The way you store bits changes. The way you manipulate bits changes. The way you privacy of those bits changes everything. And the immutability with blockchain, where those bits gets written in, changes. So even unlike Google, which has information, which is bits, you can change Google's information. You can memory hole stuff. You can go and alter history and reality. You can do PSYOP campaigns on Google and make you convinced that Biden actually won the 2020 elections. Sorry, I had to bring that in.
It's true. That's a great example of why, because when I say that the actual Bitcoin is the new America, I mean that literally.
That's why I said the world of bits, hence Bitcoin.
Right.
So I was leading to that, which is we're moving from the world of atoms to the world of bits. Bitcoin. It is the mechanism, the network that transports bits across the globe in secure, immutable, unchangeable financial transactions.
And most importantly, decentralized.
Decentralized.
That's what the American idea was, or is. Our amazing forefathers understood the key to retaining freedom is decentralization of authority. And so they had actually come from a place that had a king. That's a central authority.
That's right.
So after the Revolutionary War, we created a completely decentralized governance structure where the most important thing was the sovereignty of the person, the individual. Let's call us a bit.
Yes.
Right?
We're the bits.
We were the bits in the American idea. And what actually made America so incredible was the ability of private property. And private property is you, and I'm using an analogy, you held your sovereignty in the bit, in the person. So the responsibility reside and the sovereignty reside in the same person.
Correct. And this is really interesting, Ben. And by the way, we should call each other Bit Ben and Bit J. Every person who breaks out of the matrix,
There you go.
instead of saying Mr. Ben, it'll be Bit Ben, Bit Zoltan, Bit J, because that would say we are sovereign. We have
That's
broken
why
out of the
I
matrix.
chose my name.
There you go, Bitcoin Ben,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it makes
exactly.
sense. Now, again, a perspective on history. What Ben is talking about is true right to property. So we know 1776. Now go back 100 years, almost 100 years, 1680, 1690. There's this fellow called John Locke. And John Locke is this thinker who is writing this treatise, and he's the first guy who's saying the monarchs and the kings are not so special. In other words, until that time, it was just believed that monarchs and kings were special people, that they had basically access to God and everybody else had to bow and pray to them. And he comes out as a heretic and writes this treatise on why all men are essentially equal and that these guys wear the pants the same way and they're not anything special. That monarchy, that was the only form of government till that time, okay? So he writes this and says, monarchs are no special people. We are all equal. Then he writes a second treatise in which he says, let's assume that all of us are equal. What would the world of governance look like for that new world? And he's the first one who actually says there are three basic things. We have the right, by God given right, to life, to liberty, which is freedom to express ourselves, and to the right to property, and the right to defend the first three. So that's what John Locke writes.
Hang on 1 second. I want to correct something you just said.
Okay.
Life and liberty and property.
Yes.
All right. Liberty is not freedom. All right. Liberty is an environment. When you are liberated, you are free from external influence.
Yes.
That's what liberty is.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Absolutely. Great point.
It's why we have a statue of liberty and not a statue of freedom.
Very good point, folks. We learn every day. So anyway, so just to fast forward a little bit on the sovereignty thing that Ben is talking about. So at that time, he publishes this. It sits there. Fast forward about 80 years. John Adams is on the Constitution Drafting Committee. Sorry, Sam Adams is, his brother John is reading John Locke's book, right? And he writes a letter to his brother who's been appointed by Jefferson to be one of the 5 people who will draft the first Constitution. And he says, I've been reading about this guy called John Locke, and he writes this thing about life, liberty, and the right to property, and the overall right to defend the first 3, right? So now Sam Adams puts that into the first draft of the Constitution, which actually says life, liberty, and the right to property. Now, fast forward, there's a bunch of debates, and eventually it becomes a pursuit of happiness, which I think is a kind of a cop-out.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it was a bit of a cop-out, and I think Jefferson himself did that, which I don't agree with. But anyway,
I think that was because they were on their way to removing slavery. And I think that's what they were really arguing about.
Exactly. Well, and you're absolutely right, because I tried to dig into that and why they did. They said, well, you can't pursue happiness. His assumption was, unless you had your own property. So he kind of said, you need to have your property so that you can pursue happiness. Because in those days, if you were in the working class, you just worked all day and all night to just feed your family. Thinking about math and the stars and astronomy,
That was a rich man's problem.
Rich man's problem. You have to have property. You'd have a little apple tree and watch that apple fall down and not float away, right? So you had to be a rich man to be a creator, a sculptor, a theologian, or you had to, or a scientist. You had to be rich. You had to own property. But this property is really important. This digital asset, the bit world that we're talking about, because all of the physical reality that's around us is going to get digitized. Even if it's not digital right now, it's going to be tokenized. And you're going to hold in your wallet sovereignty. So today, when you own a house, you believe you own it? Absolutely, you don't. Your contracts, if you really got into the contract structure, you're probably owned by BIS and some Luxembourg or Belgium-based company that actually even holds your stocks. You don't even actually hold your stocks. You see some stuff on a computer screen, but the contract doesn't give. Even if you have bought a piece of land, which you paid off, the government can take it away if they increase the tax and you can't pay the tax for 3 years running. It's auctioned off. It's not your property. So digital property will truly be sovereign because your home is going to be tokenized and it's going to sit as an asset in your wallet. All of the physical reality you see around you is going to become digital one way or another, and hence the digital currency.
Yeah, and I've said this on several shows. The only thing that's going to matter in the future, in reality, is if you own Bitcoin and if you own lead.
Yes.
He goes, exactly.
It's going to go kinetic at some point.
Right. In reality, no one can take your actual Bitcoin as long as you secure it correctly. And no one can take your sovereignty and your life if you're willing to protect it.
That's right.
Everything revolves around protection and the ability to protect your assets. And that's why laws and regulations, some local laws are appropriate, but that's a whole different topic we won't get into. It's what I want people watching to really wrap their heads around is, and you and I actually talked out there, is, and I don't remember the quote I gave you that you wrote down.
Yep.
I said something and it really actually clicked with Jay.
You said all human emotions will lead to Bitcoin. Anger, jealousy, love,
exactly,
fear, greed.
Yes.
All of the emotions. Please expand on that, because I thought that was really powerful what you said. Because we talk about the technology and this and that, but bring it down to the human level, why Bitcoin is going to become what we expect it to become. Because
when we say value, when we say worth, when we apply a value or a price, that's a human emotion. It's want, it's greed, it's fear. It's every human emotion is the accumulative price. If you have a person who has a husband or a wife who is really sick and they need money and they're selling their car, you have two separate human emotions that is creating price. You have someone who's very
way to say that. Yeah.
Very, very desperate. He was like, look, God, I need $5,000 for this operation. I know the car's worth $10,000, but I need it now.
I'll sell it for $5,000.
I'll sell it for $5,000. The other person who is purchasing it is is actually arguing for greed, and not greed. Let me rephrase that. He isn't selfish. He has self-interest. That's two different
Two
things.
different things.
All right. So you have someone whose emotion is very desperate, and you have someone whose emotion
Is self-interest.
is self-interest, and those two actually meet at what we call price, and that price is actually based on emotion, because all of value is human emotion, because humans are what applies value. There would be no value if humans didn't exist.
That's a brilliantly put. It's so visceral and visual. I can see how price is created. And it is the Bitcoin network that is going to allow you to transact on that price, right? And it's going to be able to transact. Look at this world. Many of us read the news or hear it and say, oh, there's a trade war going on. No, folks, there's not a trade war. It's a trust war that is going on.
That's a great, it's a trust war.
It's a trust war that is going on right now. And people don't trust the government. People don't trust our leaders. People don't trust the media. People don't trust when a company says it's going public and is going to offer so many shares. And, the trust has eroded. People don't trust the Federal Reserve. People don't trust the Treasury. People don't trust the IRS. I could go on and on. Okay. That trust has been eroded and broken. And in this trust war, there is only one winner. And that winner is a trustless system.
Exactly. Let me rephrase that. What is more valuable than complete trust?
Not requiring it at all.
You and I are we are children of God.
Yes.
I completely trust God. How much is that worth?
Infinite.
Infinite. Because everything revolves around trust and emotion. That's why here in cryptos, we have, oh my God, the fear of missing out. The first word is fear.
Yeah.
Right? And the third word is missing, which is regret.
Yes.
It's all human emotion. So how much is this decentralized monetary network worth when it is literally valued in trustless, complete trust and every human emotion? It's priceless.
It's priceless.
Because it actually captures each of those values in one network. And when you have a trustless energy and a network that absorbs every value of every human emotion, that's why everyone says the Bitcoin will just keep going up, because what everyone is running to is they're running because they don't trust the old system, and they're running to a trustless system. Well, what is the energy that's making them run? It's their emotion, whether it is fear or it's greed
and self-preservation.
Exactly, self-interest. And so what we have, and the reason we all are so hooked on it, and we're orange pilled, and as soon as you learn about it, you want to share it, is because it is the exact system of nature. That's what we're looking at. We are looking at a digital monetary network that is the exact system of nature. We align with it.
Yes.
And as soon as humans align with something, they adopt it.
And our Bitcoin adoption will grow. So, folks, as we move from the world of bits, or from atoms to bits, as we move from a world of having trust in people we shouldn't, to a trustless system, as we move from the ledger of falsehood to a ledger of truth, this is as fundamental shift as you can ever imagine. These are going to create a future which is very different. These are big pieces on the chessboard. World of atoms to bits, trust to trustlessness, falsehoods to truth. We're going to come back and make some predictions after a message from our sponsors.
Yep.
And it's going to be real exciting, so stay tuned.
Hold, please.
Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.
Yep.
And we're back. Okay, Ben.
Yep.
Now we are going to take a few moments. I'm going to make some predictions, and you're going to tell us whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, or make modifications to it. So number one, in the next 12 to 18 months, I expect sovereign nations to start mining Bitcoin directly.
Every single one of them. And this is why. Because, like I gave the analogy of oil, the richest countries in the world have the most oil. Now we have a decentralized representation of that, where you can actually place a mining rig system out in the middle of fuck nowhere, ran off of a waterfall, and you can generate globally exchangeable currency out of pure energy. So now El Salvador, who has no oil, can actually be richer than Saudi Arabia if they front run all this, which they are.
And I'll be there in a few hours.
Yeah, literally a few hours. And what that does is it actually it creates a currency that is strictly based on the willingness of the country to join it.
So would you touch on stable coins a little bit, because that becomes a new petrodollar effectively?
Yes.
So speak to
Yes.
that for a little bit.
This is why it's so important that we pass this bill, because now listen to me closely, folks. The dollar is going to lose value and gain in usage. I know that sounds wrong, but it's not, because what's going to happen, and I've said this many times, what Trump's whole plan, I said this in 2017 and everyone thought I was batshit crazy. Trump is going to decentralize the Federal Reserve. That's it. End of story. Because our treasuries, the last window that you can go to is the Fed window. We are replacing the SWIFT system with the Lightning Network. And what that is going to do is it is going to decentralize the Federal Reserve. Because if you want to issue a unique stable coin, you will actually be required to purchase a portion in treasuries.
Which is going to be backed by Bitcoin.
Exactly. And then the treasury will be backed by a little bit of oil, a little bit of gold, and a shit ton of Bitcoin.
And hence, countries are going to mine Bitcoin directly because that is what's feeding the treasury.
Yes.
Okay, so
And
the folks who are mining and already getting into it, we are front running all of this right now.
Let me tell you how genius this plan is. Everyone is giving Trump shit for all of the tariffs. What people don't realize is that the countries are going to pay the tariffs with Bitcoin that they mine from their own countries. Folks, that's what's coming, is the global nation state exchange of value and proof of reserves will be Bitcoin. That's why Russia is mining so much Bitcoin. I know people who work for the mining hardware creators. I know where it's being shipped. Russia has bought hand over fist a lot of new, but mostly used, because they don't give a shit about energy cost.
Yeah, exactly right. So you can run the old miners and still make money from it because it's economical to do that. So folks, the first prediction is countries will get into Bitcoin mining because that is going to form the basis of the Treasury Reserve. It will become the digital base layer, the denominator, the gold, the petrodollar of choice. So that's happening. So that's a check. Number 2 prediction, Ben, that within the next 3 years, Bitcoin ETFs will become standard retirement allocation in every retirement fund.
I'll go one better.
Okay.
I think that a lot of 401ks and retirements will hold Bitcoin, not an ETF. Some will. The people that will use an ETF will be your traders. They'll trade ETFs all day long. That's actually the attractiveness of an ETF, is it's digital. And they can trade and all that and resolve on a private ledger at the end of the day. Well, a lot of the 401ks, the retirement plans, the insurance companies, they're going to choose to open their own custodian area of their company. That's why, and that's what Michael Saylor has already talked about. Michael Saylor's strategy will be one of the first Bitcoin banks ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to touch on that third one in just a second. But, these ETFs are going to have all flavors. Like Ben said, the smart ones will keep Bitcoin more pure, more native. But most companies, what they're going to start doing is creating what they call derivative assets, What does derivative mean? Very simply put, I can take 2 units of Bitcoin, 3 bushels of corn, and 4 gallons of oil, put it all into one bundle, and call this bundle Jay's ETF, right?
Yep.
And that starts to trade. So as the underlying corn price changes and the Bitcoin price changes and the oil price changes, this instrument, and now you can put 30x, 40x leverage on it and do all kinds of fugazi, which is what happened in 2008 with the CDOs, right? But basically, the world is going to move to a whole range of derivative assets based on Bitcoin.
Well, yes, but what's going to replace ETFs are smart contracts. Because as we move forward, every ETF
traded fund will become a smart contract that's being traded.
Right. And what will the smart contract hold? A crypto representing that whatever,
or a bundle
Apple
of crypto
or
or a bundle of digital assets in that token.
Right. And we actually have smart contracts. We have DAOs that are
distributed administration.
Right. That's going to actually be huge in the future, where you hold assets in a DAO, and as they gain, it handles it itself. It's such a fascinating layout, and ETFs are really tokens that aren't on a blockchain.
Yeah,
that's what an ETF is.
Exactly right. So so the next the last prediction I'm going to go into, so that we are going to see world of ETFs and derivatives. Last prediction, which is closest to my heart, Ben, is within 5 years, every bank will allow you to custody Bitcoin. We are going to be the first bank which is going to allow you to custody Bitcoin a month from now, hopefully.
Yes.
But I'm just predicting in 5 years, the Wells Fargo's, the Banks of America, every bank is going to have Bitcoin custody.
I'll go one further.
Okay, I love that.
Every single bank will be begging you to let them hold your Bitcoin. They're going to give you an interest rate that is so attractive, and a loan or whatever they have to create. Let us hold it for 2 years, and we will give you 20% interest in actual Bitcoin.
And they'll arbitrage the difference all day long.
And that is going to, folks, I want you to really wrap your heads around this. The bond market is dead. It is dead. Bitcoin is the new bond.
The king is dead. Long live the king.
Yes. And that's why a Russian, I think it's a Russian bank, just announced
today
they launched the first ever bond that's based on Bitcoin.
That's right.
And that's what we are doing in El Salvador. And fuck you, Russia, for beating us. It's another fuck.
They're doing a bond, but we're going to do a treasury reserve in a very unique manner, which no one has done.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time after we do it. So, folks, we are out of time. This has been the most fascinating conversation with Ben. I love these brainstorming conversations. He said, I love it. I got to drive over to the airport, take a flight to El Salvador, folks. We love you. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a blessed day, and God bless America. God bless you. Have a great day.
Yes, and check us out at www.bitcoinben.io. And if you have questions about club ownership or any questions at all, you give us a call at or send us a text 941-391-3882. All right, love you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Fuck It Friday.
Hey, Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club members, are you ready to take your crypto game to the next level? Well, buckle up because we've got something huge for you. As a member of the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you're already part of the future of finance. But what if you could stack even more Bitcoin without waiting? That's right. We're talking about exclusive loans designed just for you. Through the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you can apply for a fast member-only loan. Use the cash to buy Bitcoin right now while the market's hot, and watch your stack grow as the revolution unfolds. It's simple. Call us, get approved, and turn that loan into Bitcoin. Pay it back on your terms while you HODL like a pro. Why wait for the moon when you can fuel the rocket yourself? This isn't just a loan, it's your ticket to owning more of the future. And because you're part of our tight-knit community, you get VIP access to rates and support outsiders can only dream of. So, what are you waiting for? Grab your phone and call or text 941-413-6920 to apply now and start stacking saties today. The Bitcoin revolution waits for no one, especially not you. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where members don't just HODL, we build. See you on the blockchain.